Hey guys, Jessica Schwartz here. I wanted to jump on today and talk about Shane Dawson's series, The Mind of Jake Paul. So I actually have been really enjoying it. I've been a fan of Shane Dawson for a while, maybe a couple of years now, not the entire 10 or 15 years that he's been on YouTube, but I am a Shane Dawson fan. I have really loved the way that he has changed his content and adapted his channel into what's happening. So the fact that he's gone from eating crazy things and making slime and trying hacks and being silly, and then going through sometimes vlog-like days with like a day in my life or a week in my life and his relationship, and has moved into this the Tanacon docu-series and the Jeffree Star docu-series. I think it's incredibly interesting to see people grow. And a big part of me believes that this is probably something he's wanted to do for a really long time and is finally at a point in his career where he feels like he can do it and still be successful, even if people don't react necessarily the way he hopes they do. I think, as we can see, the Secret Life of Jeffree Star was super popular and extremely well received, and people were just absolutely loving it. And now this, of course, is much more controversial in some ways, and in other ways, maybe the same amount of controversial. Obviously, the Paul brothers are extremely controversial. Whether you love them or hate them, you certainly have an opinion, at least if you've heard of them before. And I will say that I don't really understand the backlash. Shane Dawson is a content creator. He is a filmmaker and a scriptwriter, and he's somebody that, even from the beginning, doing sketch comedy, like somebody that wanted to create a narrative and create characters and put them on the screen and play them out. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that he's intrigued by humans and human emotions and the lack of emotions, whether that's sociopaths, psychopaths, or just people who are interesting in general or a little different. Like, I loved his Graveyard Girl series, and I didn't even really know who Graveyard Girl was prior to that because it just wasn't a channel that I had been watching. So I think it's really interesting and honestly pretty awesome that he's at a point where he can actually make the content that he wants to make. And as a content creator, he's not beholden to his audience, he's beholden to himself. And I think that with the recent successes of his other docu-series, I think that it's so important that we all take a step back and think about, why is it that this is a controversial topic? Is it the Paul brothers themselves? Is it that you're just not interested in hearing about them? And I think, from my point of view, I have been thinking a lot about the fact that I've been thinking a lot actually about this, about the fact that mental health is such a sensitive topic for so many people. And me, not, I mean, absolutely, I'm included in that as well. I do suffer from general anxiety disorder, and I mean, I suffer from it, but I don't think of it that way. I am on medication for it, which I didn't even start until I was 30. And I was diagnosed with it at 19. So there was a lot of years of coping mechanisms and different meditation and breathing and counting and different ways to cope with it at the time. And then eventually I got help. And I went and I decided to go on medication, which has been extremely successful for me. And I don't, I don't push that on anyone else. You have to do what works for you. But the reason I bring that up is because I feel that it is incredibly important to talk about mental health, especially in the US, but really worldwide. I think in the US, we have a lot of taboo subjects that make it difficult to come out with things that make you feel as vulnerable as perhaps your mental health or your stance on abortion or politics. Like, there are so many things that are sensitive. And I think that mental health is one of those things that people don't really enjoy talking about, whether it's something that affects them or their family members. There's no way that you don't know someone who has been affected by a mental health disorder. And I think that it's something that should be talked about more, whether it's through a documentary or people being more open about their own experiences or anything like that. There are resources out there that can help you. There are hotlines, there are therapists, there are absolutely huge organizations that have resources and tools to assist anyone who's struggling with mental health. Even if you can't afford it or your insurance doesn't cover it, there's usually, if you're a student, there's usually university health services that may be able to assist, as well as there are therapists. When you do research, there are therapists and places that will do a sliding scale based on income in order to be able to continue helping you. And I really think that it needs to be talked more. And if it takes a docuseries like Shane Dawson's, where he's getting 10 million plus views on these videos, for it to become okay, for people to feel like they can talk about it more, then I think absolutely important. I think that if that's a fringe benefit of his series, then it is an absolute success. And so, if you're someone that has ever struggled with mental health, I think the most important thing that I tell people all the time is that it's not your fault. First of all, you're not defined by your disorder, nor is it your fault. Depression, anxiety, things like these are chemical imbalances in your brain. It's not like being unorganized, where if you're unorganized, you can start being organized. You can put together a calendar, use sticky notes, use a lot of different tools and resources and electronic reminders and things that could put you in a more organized place and allow you to fix that. But a mental health disorder isn't like that. It's a chemical imbalance, and no matter how hard you might wish for it to be different, that's not how it works. And it has to be addressed either by a professional or by medication or by you with coping mechanisms and ways that you find that help you. But it's not something that you can fix just because you wish you could. And so you are not defined by your disorder. You do not have to be. You do not need to define yourself that way or allow others to define you that way. And nor should you define others by their disorder as well. And whether or not Jake Paul is a sociopath, whether or not his brother Logan has, as he stated, sociopathic tendencies, whether or not they are, it's not up to me or you to feel offended on the behalf of people who do have mental health disorders, simply because I think it's up to each of us to decide for ourselves what we're offended by. And more than that, I think that if we look at this series as both entertainment and as continuing the conversation, because it's not just about the Paul family, it's about mental health. And instead of being offended by it, I truly believe we should look at this as a spotlight on it. And we really need to be putting a spotlight on it, with it being so taboo still in the society to be talking about it, and to be look at all of the celebrities and people that you've known in your personal life who have had mental disorders or who have succumbed to them. It's an incredibly stressful, absolutely horrific thing when that happens. And the thing is we want people to feel better. And if it's talking to a therapist, if it's even just learning what is sociopathy, so of course, sociopathy, but if it is being a sociopath or a psychopath or having general anxiety disorder or severe depression or manic depression or bipolar, it doesn't matter what it is. If we can shine a spotlight on it and make it okay to talk about it, then more people are going to feel more comfortable getting help. And I think that we really need to think about these things and how it is still so taboo in so many ways, because people think of it as offensive or private or something that doesn't need to be talked about or addressed by the general public. And I just don't believe that. And so I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I know I'm just a tiny YouTuber, and this is a brand new channel that I've started, but I find that I want it to be a place where I can state my opinion and talk about things and treat it almost like a journal, the way I treat my blog, and put thoughts out in the world and hope that whether it's good or bad, that you have something to say about it and some way to respond. So I am looking forward to reading any comments, and thank you so much for watching.